sometimes you can do the right thing and get the wrong results. Good morning and welcome to Coffee and the Word. So we've been talking about this character named Joseph, and Joseph is the 10th son of 12 boys, and his brothers have sold him into slavery. He had this dream. We talked about the dream yesterday. Joseph seems like he's a good, all-around good dude. Like, he does things the right way. And the scripture uses this phrase all the time. God blesses whatever he touches. In other words, wherever we find Job, we find blessing following him. And so Potiphar is a character in the Bible that we only see for a little bit. But Potiphar is a powerful person in the Egyptian kingdom. And he has taken Joseph in as his servant. And then he puts Joseph in charge of his whole house. Everything under his charge, Joseph isn't, everything under his household, Joseph is in charge of. Except for his wife. And so Joseph is doing what Joseph does. And Potiphar's wife is interested in Joseph because, as the scripture says, he's well built and handsome. So well built and handsome Joseph gets hit on by Potiphar's wife, and she literally says, "Come to bed with me." And here's what the scripture says, Joseph refused. "With me in charge," he told her, "my master does not concern himself with anything in the house. Everything he owns, he has entrusted to my care. No one is greater in this house than I am. My master has withheld nothing from me except you, because you are his wife. How could I do such a wicked thing and sin against God?" And though she spoke to Joseph day after day, he refused to go to bed with her, even to be with her. And so Joseph can we all agree? Joseph's doing the right thing. Like, Joseph says, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm a man of integrity. You're not something that I get to have, so I'm not going to have you. I'm rejecting you. No. He does the right thing. God is blessing him. God is blessing anything he touches. So since he's doing the right thing, he ought to get the right results, right? I mean, that's what we're taught. That's what we tend to believe is right actions create right results. And for the most part, there's some truth to that. It's not what happens to Joseph. So what happens next is very interesting. She is persistent, Potiphar's wife. She is persistent. She continues to try and poke and prod and convince him. And then one day she grabs his cloak and he's like, no. And he pulls out of it and he runs out of the room, and she comes up with a plan. She screams. And the other servants come in, and she's holding Joseph's cloak, and she says, "He tried to be with me." And she tells Potiphar has him thrown in the dungeon, in the king's dungeon. Wait, that's not how this story's supposed to go. Joseph did the right thing. But the wrong thing happened. He was supposed to be praised for his integrity and goodness, and yet the wrong thing happened. How come she could do the wrong thing and get the right thing? How come she did what she wanted and she got what she wanted? She had no regard for God or integrity or her husband, and yet she's living the life of luxury still. And Joseph finds himself in a dungeon. But the story doesn't stop there for Joseph. So Joseph is thrown in this dungeon, the king's dungeon, and in that dungeon, he also is blessed by God, and everything he touches works perfectly. And so he becomes the lead head dungeon prisoner. He's like the caretaker, the prison guard is like, "Oh, Joseph, you're in charge. This is your place because everything you touch turns to perfect stuff. Like, you're doing good things." And in that moment, he has two people in there with him, the cupbearer of the king and the baker of the king, and both of them have dreams. Joseph comes in. Joseph's like, "God can interpret your dream. I'm not a dream interpreter. God is a dream interpreter. So tell me your dream." They both tell him a dream. He gives both of them their their explanation of the dream, and the cupbearer ends up back in Pharaoh's court, bearing the cup for Pharaoh. And Joseph asked him just one thing: don't forget me. Just don't forget me. And the first opportunity that he has, the cupbearer, the scripture says at the end of chapter 40, forgot him. And then Pharaoh has some dreams. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. What I want you to get today is, it is possible, in fact, it's probably pretty normal for you to do the right thing and get the wrong results. It is possible for you to be a person of integrity and get accused of not being. It is possible for you to do the right thing every time and seemingly just watch everybody else who's doing all the things wrong get all the blessings. Right? It just seems like that whatever they touch turns to gold and they're doing it all wrong. It doesn't seem fair. Well, first of all, let me tell you a hard truth. This life isn't fair. This life is sold under sin. This life celebrates rebellion against God. And so sometimes we see the momentary become desirable. Like, the whole thing about the grass is always greener on the other side, which, by the way, it may be, but it's not your yard. You can work in your own yard. Sorry, got off topic. But let me get back onto this. Why then, if we're not going to get the results we want, do we do the right thing? That's the question we ought to be asking. What is the motivation for doing the right thing? What is the motivation for doing the thing that we're called to do, of being people of integrity, of being people of truth? What is the motivation if we're not going to get what we want? Here's the truth. You don't do the right thing so that you can always get the right results. You do the right thing in service to the God who made you, the God who saved you, and the God who called you. And I want you to understand something, that sometimes in this life, we get the wrong result. If you really understand the Christian narrative, it looks like Jesus was defeated. It looks like the apostles failed. It looks like, if you know anything about Roman history, it looks like the Christians were always getting the short end of the stick. But you do understand, what happens in this world that is meant for evil, God uses for good. And so while in this moment, it may not be working out the way you want it to, I'm going to tell you the end of this story, or a little bit of the end of the story. Joseph was always seemingly doing the right thing, except telling his brother's dream. I think that was dumb. He probably shouldn't have done that. But Joseph was not a bad dude, and yet he's thrown into a pit. He's sold into slavery. He's thrown into a dungeon. He's forgotten. And eventually, he becomes the second most powerful person in Egypt. While doing the right thing may never net you the right results in this life, I promise you, there's coming a day when the right thing that you do will be acknowledged. We do the right thing because we serve an awesome God, not because of what He promises us, but because of who He is. So when you're feeling discouraged, when you're feeling like doing the right thing is the wrong thing, remember, you're doing it in service to God, not in service to self. God bless you. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. This has been another edition of Coffee and the Word.